Hello and welcome to today's webcast titled The Impact of Industrial Tool Advancements on Safety, Productivity, and Joint Integrity. I'm Aaron Larson, Executive Editor of Power Magazine, and I'll be moderating today's program, during which we'll hear from Jon Bice, the Senior Commercial Marketing Manager with Enerpac. Jon originally joined Enerpac's predecessors, Hydratight and Sweeney, covering power gen and bolting tools. Now his focus is on broader torque and tension tools for Enerpac. He's based in Wisconsin, and his main areas of responsibility are North and South America, but he also supports global marketing efforts as and when his specialist knowledge is required. Today's presentation is expected to last about 40 minutes and will be followed by a Q&A session. Before we get started, I'll run through a few housekeeping items. In the webinar platform, you should see a chat area and a Q&A area. If you're experiencing any technical difficulty, you can ask for help using the chat function, and our production staff will assist you. To submit questions for the speaker, please enter those in the Q&A section rather than in the chat. You can enter questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll answer as many as possible following the program. Any that we don't get to during the live session will be answered via email after the seminar. Today's presentation will be archived on our server for up to 1 year, and future viewing will remain free of charge. You can enter the same URL that you used to reach the live program to reach the archived program. PowerPoint slides will be made available to everyone for download from the web page after the presentation. A certificate of completion for professional development hours will also be sent out via email to every registered participant who attends. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Enerpac for underwriting today's program. The company's generosity allows everyone to attend the presentation at no cost. So with that, I'll turn the program over to our speaker. Jon, take it away.
Sounds good, Aaron. Thank you very much for that introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to some of you guys. Thank you all very much for taking some time out of your day to join us for today's webinar. I'm excited to talk to you guys today about some of the advancements that we've seen in industrial tooling and how that impacts our job sites, and some of the tools that we use on a regular basis to make our lives easier. So like I said, we're going to be focusing on safety and productivity. Those two things go hand in hand in our world, in the industrial tooling world. We want to make sure that all of our operators are well suited, well trained to get the tasks done at hand, keep their sites operating efficiently. And of course, everybody is safe on the job throughout. So a couple different things we're going to be going through in today's session. We're going to have a little bit of an introduction here, and then we'll go into the technology trends in industrial tools. No matter what space you're in, no matter what market or industry you happen to work in, we can apply much of the technology trends to our day-to-day lives. And we're also going to spend a little bit of time talking about how we as day-to-day consumers in our home life, we experience technology changes and technology updates on a regular basis that are provided to us by some of the large global companies. Think of a cell phone, if you will, and how that technology has enriched our lives, made our lives safer, more communicative, and how do we bring a lot of that technology into our business lives, into our careers, where we can make job sites more effective, more data-centric, and certainly safer all around. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about calibration. So as we think about a tool crib or a tool trailer that might be out on the job site where we're pulling tools out to complete our work, some of those are calibrated assets, some of them are not. We'll go through a little bit of the background on calibration and why we want to have something calibrated versus not, based on the engineering specs. From there, we're going to talk about the importance of tool maintenance. This will actually be kind of the bulk of the presentation today. What my job, what I'd like to do with today's session is really drive home how maintaining your tool fleet, which includes calibration, but maintaining those tool assets inside of the tool crib, the tool room, the tool trailer, wherever they're housed and managed. The better that we can maintain those tools, the safer they perform, the faster they perform, the more efficient they are for us on the job site. So I'd like to introduce a couple of ideas that we have here at Enerpac and some other folks that are manufacturing tools for our industrial space as well are certainly on board with it to try to get the tool maintenance cycles to the highest level so that we know when we pick up a set of tools or even just a specific individual tool, that tool is going to perform well, it's going to perform safe, and it's going to get us through our job effectively. And then the last piece is how all of that ties into safety and productivity through fleet management. So where are my tools? What status are they in? What's the refurb that may be required? How do I have checks and balances within my tool process, so that when I go to pick up hand pumps and cylinders, or I go to pick up hydraulic torque wrenches, or I go to get any number of industrial tools that exist out in the world, even outside of just Enerpac's catalog, we're able to safely manage those tools and get them to the job site and have them perform the work that all of us are out to do day in, day out. So we'll end it with a little bit of question and answer session for everybody. There is a poll question that we'd love to have you guys chime in on. And an important note on the poll question is there are 4 options, and you can select as many as you see fit. So 1, 2, 3, or 4 as you see fit. But we're looking to get a good pulse from everybody on the call today for what really drives your perspective of a tool. What's your top thing to do? So you'll see that poll kind of pop up on your screen. Feel free to participate in that and let us know what your thoughts are. So with that, we'll kind of dive in after the agenda. So, I'm a big fan of quotes. I think it kind of gets a mental state in play as we think about our jobs and we think about our careers and how to do them most effectively to bring value to our companies, bring value to our customers. It is ultimately as simple as doing a good job. So setting the standard, there's a great Benjamin Franklin quote that I love: "Lost time is never found again." When we're out on the job sites, we are working with our customers, we're working with our partners. There are always time schedules, there are always deadlines in place, and everybody wants to be, doing the best they can to meet those deadlines, to meet those timelines that we've all committed to. Once something slips, once we have an issue with a tool out in the field, or something happens with a timeline slippage, it certainly happens. We've all been there. But as our buddy Benjamin Franklin would say, you don't get that time back. So the more prep work we can do on maintaining our tool fleets, making sure they're calibrated properly, making sure they're green tagged and ready to go for a job, that will keep that time, that very valuable time, on track as best we can. Another great quote: "Efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things." So on the job site, we've got to make sure that whether we're doing flange maintenance, or whether we're pulling a gas turbine apart, or whatever the industrial application calls for, we mix in the blend between efficiency of making sure that we're doing the prescribed list, but also that prescribed list is accurate, and that's where the effectiveness comes in. So Enerpac, as a tool OEM, we want to work with any of our customers and partner with you guys on what the best tool maintenance schedule looks like, what the best tool calibration schedule looks like. And that'll give you the best effectiveness and efficiency on your jobs. And the last one is it's perfect this time of year with Halloween coming up. It's Stephen King, the author. He says, "Amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work." And I think that hits it on the head. All of us are here to get a job done. We go to work day in, day out, showing up at job sites, trying to maintain our tool fleets, and ultimately go to work. That's what we're here to do, and go out and get the job done. So the technology trends in industrial tools. And again, we think about this coming from our personal lives, where we're at home, we're interacting with streaming television, or we've got our cell phones, or whatever technology is at home that we're using day to day. There's a bunch of technology that comes into that side of the world that we want to continue to morph. We know that it makes our lives easier as a consumer. We want to drive that technology into the business side of the world, to our professional careers, so that we can take that technology that we're used to using as a consumer and bring it into our technology. Again, it makes everything safer, lets us work through our job, work through our commitments, and ultimately meet the timelines that we have set in front of us. So for Enerpac and a bunch of other tool manufacturers that are out there, at the end of the day, the primary focus is our end user, is the technicians that are on site, going to perform the work, whether that's replace a gasket on an oil pipeline, whether that's, again, pulling apart a gas turbine, lifting something overhead, whatever the work is to be done. We know that those end users understand those job applications probably better than we ever can as a tool manufacturer. So we want to make sure we're always listening to the customer pain points and understand where they may have ergonomics in play, understand where they may have, they have figured out a workaround because of a certain design flaw that could be within a tool. We want to be able to listen to that, correct that, build it into the next generation, the next design of the tool, and let the technology enhance the next generation of tool that we're going to go ahead and launch in a given time frame. That starts with observing the work performed in the field. Now, we've all been on this ride for the last year and a half, couple of years, where getting out in the field as a completely different flavor, rightfully so. And so, technology came right on board to say, hey, let's download Microsoft Teams. And now we all have, video conferencing available on our cell phones or any of the other manufacturers of that type of software platform. We want to make sure we're working with our end users, working with our tool distributors, anybody that's involved with the tool fleet management. We can still get in touch with them, even though we may not be flying and driving as often as we used to. Hopefully that's all coming back quickly. But we want to stay in touch, and we want to make sure we can observe how the tools are being used out in the field, so that as we make design improvements, as we build a technology roadmap, we're always taking into account, how does the operator, what's the day-to-day experience of that operator who's using that tool, to make sure that it's getting the job done for them and that it's performing safely. And that last point is what I was just hitting on, getting the ergonomics, which will reduce fatigue, discomfort, and injury. This one's huge. All of our companies have really led the charge over the last, decade or two, saying, safety. We have to operate safety. Yes, we have to get the job done, but we need to get the job done safely. And we can design better tools. We can design better tool systems. We can maintain our tools better, have better record keeping. There's all kinds of different efforts that we can put in place, procedures that we can put in place that will reduce the fatigue of the operator at minimum. And then, of course, avoid injury is the big one, to keep everybody, safely working, going home at night, just as they showed up, safely and ready to go to work the next day. Another big technology trend that we've been seeing, and Enerpac's been on this ride for about 25 years or so already, and that's the shift to cordless. Again, we saw it. If you go to your home life again and you think about being in the garage, and we had corded drills forever. I remember well in the 90s when the battery powered drills started coming out from DeWalt and Stanley and all the different manufacturers of home battery powered drills. And it took a while for that battery technology to get to where it needed to be. And luckily in the industrial space, we're now taking advantage of that battery technology and advancing it in. Believe it or not, Enerpac, back in 1995, we actually released a battery powered high pressure pump that we called the Walk Pack. So that's the picture that's in that upper right. It was a great piece of technology, especially in 1995, as you can imagine. What you see at the bottom of that picture is actually the battery pack. Anybody that remembers an over-the-shoulder VHS home video camera probably recognizes that battery because it came out of that. But it is very cool to see our home lives and the technology that we enjoy at home coming into the industrial world. And we've been on this journey for quite some time. So you see a 10,000 PSI hydraulic pump, which is the ZE on that bottom left. We also have an XC series, which is a battery-powered 10,000 PSI portable pump. And then we have a battery-powered rebar cutter over in that bottom right. So battery technology is coming along very fast in the industrial space. Enerpac is fully involved in it, along with a number of the other tool manufacturers that are in the space. It's great to see. But we've got to make sure that we get the math right between tool performance and tool convenience. So there's certain spaces where we still need corded power. There's certainly some circumstances where we're always on air power, on pneumatic power. But where it fits, the battery technology has a great amount of convenience, and we're happy to incorporate that into more and more of our products as we move forward. Another big advancement, again, you guys are seeing it, remote controls. And again, go way back when, well before my time, but 40, 50 years ago, there was somebody running up to the TV to turn the little dial from channel 9 to channel 10. And of course, we live in a much different world today. It is far more user friendly to be in complete control of the system that you are operating. So what we have from a product standpoint on this slide is a synchronized lift system. And if you can imagine, if you have multiple hydraulic cylinders that are pushing up on an application, pushing up on a rotor, for example, you're going to want complete control as you're lifting that up. And that starts and ends with the pendant control. So we've got, multi-point automation where you can show up with a sync lift system. In our case, and a number of other tool manufacturers have versions as well. And you can safely control that lift from wireless pendants that are away. So we at Enerpac are trying to advance that technology. On a daily basis, we talk about advancing that technology. It's needed. It's going to be welcomed, but we are going to make sure that we cross every I and dot every T, if you will, to make sure that technology is sound, that it safely works, and that when you get out onto the job site, when you pick those tools up and take them out, it's going to work for you. It's a lot different if your volume control button doesn't work on your home TV remote. We don't live in that space. We need our controls and our pendants to work every single time without fail. So the communication link is strong, and our job sites are always operating safely. We've got a nice 1992 graphic there of one of our original sync lift systems. And it was for lifting up some high tonnage loads that we had out there. So pretty cool technology. We're advancing that down to be in the shape of a handheld device, and we're excited for all that advancement. And then the biggest single difference, and we're right in the thick of getting this in our industrial space. We know that it exists in our consumer space where we do business with, call it Amazon.com, and they have all of our payment information stored. They have multiple addresses stored, whether we're shipping something to ourselves, to family members, to friends. They store all of that information up in the cloud. It's very easy to do business with them. And that is their magic sauce as this large global retailer. We need to take all that same type of technology and bring it into our industrial tool world. So information is readily available, and you can track down when you purchase the tool, where you purchase the tool from, what's the service record, where's the owner's manual, can I get an updated owner's manual? We've all heard about over-the-air updates. So once a month, once every couple of months, your phone will buzz and it'll be ready to do a 14.2 update or whatever the number is. And what that is that's the manufacturer of that product that's working through improvements and wanting to push those out into the space so that you can have a better user experience with their product. At Enerpac and a number of other tool manufacturers, we're looking to achieve the exact same thing. We recently launched Enerpac Connect app. It is in a soft launch state right now. We're looking forward to a broader launch next year. But basically, it's going to put a lot of information in the palm of your hands, where you're going to be able to scan an Enerpac product and go immediate to data sheets, owner's manuals, maintenance records, get in contact with an Enerpac distributor, and get on-site tool support right there. So we want to be in touch with you, and what our day-to-day lives are is we can get in touch. We can as simple as hashtag Amazon or hashtag Delta when we want to get a hold of these large companies, we can do that. And so Enerpac and the other industrial tool manufacturers, we're looking to provide that same type of connectivity to all of you guys. So why are tools calibrated? As you can imagine, it is all about accuracy. It is all about efficiency. If I have checked my tool, if I have calibrated my tool, it lowers a whole bunch of rework that is out in the field, and that can cause timelines to switch. So, we want to make sure that the way that the asset was originally designed is exactly the way that asset is assembled. In some cases, it's also in disassembly. We want to have data points for disassembly. And that starts with a well-calibrated tool that is performing in the way that it is designed to perform. So my background is in bolting, which Aaron mentioned at the top of the call. So what you see on your screen here is a hydraulic torque wrench. and it is on our newly launched safety torque checker. But with the intent of that torque wrench putting out 3,000 foot-pounds of torque, we want to ensure that that is exactly the torque output that wrench is providing, so that it's performing the work that the operator is intending it to, and the work that the operator is intending it to perform is exactly the work that the design engineer worked up the spec. So when they pick a flange thickness or a bolt diameter and they're trying to get a certain torque spec for a product, we want to make sure that our tool is performing the exact way that the engineer believes it to be being performed and the operator knows it to be being performed. And that'll give us a more secure asset out in the field. Think about it as easy as the lug nuts on your vehicle. You want to make sure those are 80 foot-pounds or whatever the vehicle manufacturer calls for. If any of those are loose, that original design engineer that said, I'm going to have 4 tires on the ground and I'm going to have 6 lug nuts that are tight to 80 foot-pounds in each of those 4 wheels, that throws off all of their design calculations, and certainly still safe by all means, but is that vehicle the most efficient? Could it cause premature wear and tear? And that's really the crux of this entire presentation is, yes, we always want to be operating safely and making sure that those tools are maintained and refurbed and calibrated, performing exactly as they should. But it's also about that asset that we're on site to perform work for. So we bid the job to go and repower a wind tower, for example. We want to make sure that that asset owner, whether it's a utility company or anybody else that's owning that wind tower, they've got the confidence in us and they've got the confidence in our tools, that those tools are going to perform the way that they should. And that asset owner who owns the wind tower, that wind tower is going to be performing at maximum performance without additional wear and tear. Because again, if we happen to have a loose fastener, for example, it may not be a safety issue. It may not rise to that level. But if it simply isn't operating in its most optimum level, it's not being as efficient. It's not being as effective out in the field. And that's very important to a utility company that's selling their electricity, trying to maintain their business. And we can bring a lot of value as the tool provider, and then as the end users that are coming on site to perform that work. We can provide a lot of confidence in our process as we show them, this is how we maintain our tools. This is how we track our records. This is how often we calibrate our tools. This is how often they go through a maintenance cycle. And we tie all of that, all the technology that I've shown you already into one with, pendants that have intelligence built into them, some data tracking. This happens to be the safety torque checker on your screen, which allows you to take a torque wrench and get a quick check of the torque output of that wrench on the spot. And so we're trying to drive our technology to make smarter, more efficient job sites. And like I said, it's confidence in the asset's safety, and then confidence in that asset's performance to make sure that it's doing exactly what their customers are paying for it to do. Because remember, in a consumer world, we're looking at a lot of things that are nice to have at home that make our day-to-day lives easier at home. In the industrial space that we all work in every day of the week, it's about performance. It's about profitability and safety and performance. And if their asset that we're helping them maintain, we're helping them disassemble it, or we're helping them assemble it, or move it from one side of the job site to the other, the more efficient we can do that job that is on the table, the more profitable they will be, the more value we will bring to that customer, the more times we can secure that book of business. And again, in the business world, that's certainly what we're all about. So the importance of tool maintenance. I've hit on it a number of times, but it's very much about, making sure that tool is ready to go. Think of it as simple as is your gas tank, in your car full of gas before the road trip. Have you checked the different items that you need to do before that tool is ready to go out and go to work? So we can do that with tool crib management. We can do that with cloud-based tracking so that the tool maintenance records are logged and saved. We have a certain trained operator that has logged in and been certified to work on a given, ram or cylinder or a flange spreading tool or a lifting tool. Basically, any of our industrial tools that we use day to day should have a strong maintenance cycle attached to it. And the best source for that, whether it's Enerpac or any other tool manufacturer, is that tool manufacturer. We all have teams of engineers that have designed these tools to perform at their best in specific circumstances. And we can work with you guys on what your job site needs are, how often you're using the tool, at what capacity you're using the tool to help, best set up your tool maintenance programs, and that'll yield great benefits out in the field, and you'll ultimately win more business with utility companies, asset owners, because they know that we're going through all of the ins and outs of what it takes to have efficient tools on site, trained operators, and everybody's getting the job done. Sticking with the car reference, I do like analogies. It simplifies things in my brain. Hopefully you all share it a little bit with me. So if you think about a vehicle, and we have a lot of vehicle options. Some are for towing big boats. Some are for high fuel efficiency as commuter cars. Some are better in cold weather, like we have up in Wisconsin when we're driving through snow, all-wheel drive. They have different tools for the different jobs, and based on what your individual site needs are, based on what your individual consumer needs are, you want to pick a vehicle that fits whatever your needs are. We want to apply that same type of scrutiny, that same type of analysis to our industrial tool purchases. So when we go out to find the right tool vendor and we go out to select the right tool, we want to be looking at what capacity are we using that tool at. So if you're going to be pulling a 5,000 pound trailer and that vehicle is rated to 5,000 max towing pounds, you're going to be maxing out that vehicle every time you hook up that trailer and take it on the road. Now, maybe you only do it once a year, and so you're comfortable with that. But if you're towing every single month at the max capacity of that vehicle's rating, you're going to wear that vehicle out much faster. You're going to wear the brakes out faster. Every single component that's in that drivetrain is going to have more stress because you're running it at 100% capacity and high frequency. The exact same type of logic applies to all of our industrial tools. So again, I'll use the torque wrench as the example because that's my background. But I think this is important in any of our tool usage to undersize a tool or oversize a tool based on the specific job site requirements will greatly change our maintenance cycles. It'll change our calibration cycles. And the more we can custom fit what your job site needs are for which specific tool is best fit for you, the better. So our big phrase around the Enerpac world for the last couple of years is the right tool for the job. And that's the right tool for the job in so many different ways. What's your frequency of usage? How hard are you running it when you run it? How long are you going to own it? How long is it going to be out on the job site? How often can it cycle back through a refurb lab? Maybe it's going offshore, and maybe there's no way that tool can come back through to an in-house calibration stand. So we have to figure out mobile calibration for its journey because the tool's not coming back for 6 months. So at Enerpac, we're trying to expand our portfolio into more than just one option. So 5 years ago, we only had one version of a torque wrench at Enerpac. We had an S-Series square drive and we had a W-Series cassette. We've been on a product management journey over the last few years to increase those options to all of our tool customers. So they now have 3 different torque wrenches to choose from based on whether they're looking for a cassette low profile hex tool or whether they're looking for a square drive tool. And it's all about the diligence of looking through what your particular site needs are, how often that tool is going to get used, and to what capacity or bandwidth, if you will, of the tool to make sure that we're getting the exact right tool list ironed out for your job site. If you're going to a tool supplier, tool manufacturer, and there's only one option on the table, there's not much to consider. That's the only one, take it or leave it. If you go to a tool supplier or tool manufacturer and they're giving you multiple options, A, B, C, and D, for any number of strengths and weaknesses, you're going to come out with a better tool and a better tool package to give to your operators, to get your operators out in the field operating effectively. It's a bit of a mind shift. It's getting, having a ballpoint pen versus a pencil versus a Sharpie. We can all think of different writing circumstances where one of those writing utensils is better than the other. Does that mean that they're the same or one is better than the other? No, but what it means is you can take those options and you can set your site's procedures based on what you need. So that directly ties into the tool maintenance, how it's being used, and the frequency in which it's getting used to that level. And we can help with that as a tool manufacturer. And like I said, a lot of other tool manufacturers in the industrial space are strong at that as well, as we should be. So on the back to the calibration front, we have certifications and ongoing checks. It very much depends on your site needs and what the asset owner is telling you. Some asset owners, they require 3-month calibrations. They require 6-month calibrations, 12-month calibrations. It depends, and so we want to be open to whatever that asset needs. Who's probably the ultimate customer in the circumstance. We want to be open to what they need to make sure that those tools are operating as effectively as possible. And again, I use the torque wrench as the example, but if you think about this, we can apply this to any of the industrial tools that are out in the space. So that the black suitcase, Pelican case that you see in front of you is what we have for an on-site torque solution. It's called a safety torque checker. You can put the torque wrench onto that torque checker right on site. It's the size of a briefcase basically, and weighs around 15 pounds. It's extremely portable. And you can put a torque wrench onto that and get a quick safety check with the actual pump, hose, and tool that you're using right on site before performing the work. The vast majority of calibrations out there, including our own at Enerpac, they're done in a lab with a master gauge and a master setup on a bench that's specific to the wrench. What we want to introduce is an additional verification option for you guys to consider at the job site, where you still have the laboratory calibration. That would be the certificate that you see on the right side of your screen. You still get that, but in addition to that, you can add a step in that just before that torque wrench goes onto the flange or onto the bolt that you're working on, you can do a quick check and record what that pump, hose, and wrench is exactly putting out for torque. So it's a nice system there to incorporate into the systems. And then all of the maintenance records all the maintenance cycles that we're doing, all the calibration checks, those are extremely important to run through the finish line and have a maintenance record program that is set up behind the scenes, so that as our refurb technicians are doing their work to keep that tool operating at its best performance level, we're capturing that data. We're capturing the data of when it was refurbed, by what operator. Maybe that operator has a certificate to back up the work that they performed. And we can put it back on the shelf as a green tagged asset with an up-to-date calibration certificate, with an up-to-date refurbishment report. We can track costs. We can track, tool upgrades, when we have to replace spare parts. Any of those things, if we can get them into a cloud-based program, we can manage our tool fleet significantly better. So at Enerpac, we have what we call iCalibrate, which is that cloud-based software system. We have it in a few niche locations, and it's terrific. You can actually put a QR code right onto the tool itself and scan it in. We do not have that as a global offering just yet, but it's an example of what we would encourage all of our end users, all of tool operators out in the field with whatever industrial tool that they're using. We would encourage you to take on this level of management of your records. The better records you have, the better records we can show to end users and asset owners. And it's a win all the way around. You perform the work safer. You perform the work a little bit faster. You become more attractive to your customer that you won the job with, so that the next time that they have an outage, or the next time that they have some type of work to be performed, your organization is likely going to be the top of the list, because you have a well-vetted tool maintenance program. You know that you selected the right tools for the job that are going to be going to the job site. And we know that they're going to be refurbed as they need to. They're going to be calibrated when they need to. And that asset owner that's ultimately giving you the business, awarding you guys the business, they have the confidence in your organization that you guys are the go-to, and you'll win more business out of it. So it is all related, and getting that cloud-based technology, whether it's ours or others. We highly encourage that, to just let the industrial tools that you're using perform at their absolute best. And in order for them to perform at their best, they need to have these different boxes checked, so that we can make sure that the tools are ready to go from the tool crib. The last piece here that I'll touch on is joint integrity. This is the specific job work that comes up from everything that I talked about. So in the pipeline world, where we're changing out gaskets, we want to make sure that flange is bolted based on the exact bolting procedure that the engineer has set up. And so we want to work with that engineering firm that whatever the maintenance contractor is, we want to work with them that our tools perform exactly the way that they need them to, so that their joint integrity of that flange adheres to the best. So we'll play a few minutes of a video here on joint integrity. And I think Sophie will pop in and do that for us. There we go.
Every single leak has a negative impact and incurs a cost to your business. Leaks delay startups, cause unplanned shutdowns, adversely affect the brand image of your company, your operations, the safety of your staff, and they can have significant environmental impact. The total accumulated value of the 100 largest losses in the hydrocarbon industry as a result of leaks is over $33 billion. Furthermore, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers states that leaks from bolted joints equate to losses of over $100 million annually. But all leaks can be prevented, and with our track record, we at Hydrotite have proved it. Our joint integrity program results in the lowest cost, leak-free solutions for your plant, helping projects remain on schedule and on budget, eliminating rework and multiple tests, and providing safe and reliable operations using fully traceable solutions delivered to the best industry standards. Industry studies show that the majority of flange leaks are attributable to procedural, process, or operational failings. Surprisingly few are as a result of technical issues. Fundamentally, it is people and their competencies that prevent leaks. As a measure of our technical credibility, Hydrotite became the world's first ASME PCC1 qualifying organization, certified by Lloyd's Register Energy. Nearly all of the world's process plants depend on either welded or bolted joints for pressurized process containment. A welded joint must comply with mandated procedures and competency requirements to assure quality and fitness for purpose. Historically, a bolted flange joint has few such requirements, even though it serves the same purpose. But at Hydrotite, we approach bolted joints with the same rigorous quality control and assurance as would be expected of welded joints. Hydrotite's Joint Integrity Assurance Program is inclusive of 3 elements: engineering consultancy, QA/QC compliance, and craft execution. All are necessary to achieve a leak-free startup.
All right. That is a portion of the clip that I wanted to show you guys. It is about 6 or 7 minutes long. It is on YouTube if you'd like to see it in all of its entirety, but I did want to show you guys there. And then if we could go back to the slides quick. There we go. Beautiful. So, you know, what you see in that video is the, you know, the summation of everything that we've been talking about on this call. All of the data records, all the procedures that are there are only as good as the tools themselves that are performing the work. So if a tool is out of calibration or a tool is not performing at its highest level, all the data record keeping in the world won't let our sites operate at optimal level. So, you know, said in reverse, the more we can maintain these tools, have them green tagged on the shelf, have the confidence that the tool is ready to be loaded onto a truck or a vessel and go out and perform work safely, the better. We then train our technicians to a world-class standard. We know that their tools are ready to perform great work, and we can get out to a job site and we can really impress an asset owner with our level of safety, our level of tool organization, tool management, and the technology that comes right along with it. Again, we all know what our home lives look like with technology and how that's changed so significantly in the last 10, 15 years. And we want to bring all of those same great technologies, conveniences, interfaces into the industrial tool space, whether we're talking about bolting, whether we're lifting, whether we're doing pin pulling, on-site machining, field machining, things like that. There's a number of different operations that all revolve around the appropriate set of tools that are well maintained and ready to perform some good work. So with that said, I made it through all of my prepared slides and would love to have a few minutes open for some Q&A. And I believe we were going to pull the poll question back up one more time as well. So please participate in the poll. That would be great to get your feedback on that poll question that we have out there.
All right, thanks, John. Great presentation. Anytime you can work a Benjamin Franklin quote and a Stephen King quote into a presentation, you know it's going to be good.
There you go.
Well done. The only thing you did do is you made me feel really old, because I do remember when the TV used to have knobs and dials and you had to turn the channel. And on our TV, you actually had to sit by it in some cases and push the knob up and to the left to get the picture to come in properly. And that was my job, to make sure that the whole family could watch TV by me sitting there pushing the dial in the certain direction that made it viewable. So
yep, there you go. That's great.
I want to remind attendees, you can ask John questions. Just enter those in the Q&A section, and we'll get to answer those if you've got any for him. And I'd like to thank him again for the presentation. It was really interesting, and I think I hope everybody got some good insight into what's available on the market and why calibrations are important and why these tools are so helpful in your jobs. I guess the first question here, or should we check the poll first and see, do you have any insight that you want to share based on the results that we've seen come in?
I don't know that I'm seeing the results. Maybe I'm not looking in the right spot just yet.
Okay. It looks like a lot of people are find the most important thing to be the proven success record. So I think, based on what I've seen, Enerpac has a pretty well proven record of success with these tools and your equipment. Can you speak any all to that?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say without it, what I would say is we absolutely do. I mean, we go back to automotive hydraulics with a company called Blackhawk Hydraulics back in the 20s and 30s, believe it or not. And then we've evolved and morphed into this global tool manufacturer. And what we've done is through an acquisition model, we've purchased a number of companies over the last 25, 30 years, and put together one heck of a track record of folks that can put out some really high quality tools out in the space. So we're happy to work globally. We have 30 offices in 33 different countries. And we're absolutely a global company. With that said, I'd be the first to say that, the other tool manufacturers that are out in the industrial space, they do a nice job and they push us and we push them. So ultimately, the folks that are out there as end users, they're the ultimate winner, as they should be. We push our technology up, and the next thing we know, another tool manufacturer in the space is pushing their technology up. And that's the name of the game, and we're happy to be at it, and we want to make sure we get to the leading edge of it, and continue to stand on that proven track record that we have. Easier said than done some days, but hey, that's why we go to work.
Yeah, and somewhat surprising to me, the second most answered response was leading the way in technological advancements, which is even more important to people than cost, apparently, which I can see that in the energy and power industry, cost is probably not as important as having the right tool that can do the job properly and having good quality. So I think in some ways that does make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we say it all the time that cost is always a consideration. Everybody's under a budget. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's working toward a budget, professionally, personally, what have you. But in the vast majority of circumstances that we live in the industrial space, it's about getting the work done. And that's far more important in the short run because we work in such costly industries. And I mean that in a positive way. For any of us that have exposure to the nuclear space, which we have a number of tools involved in refueling. We have reactor pressure vessel bolt tensioners in that space. You want to talk about an hourly rate. Any of us that have touched the nuclear industry know that that's a significant number. So cost of the tool is not what drives it. It is execution. It is reliability. And it's adding that technology. So if they can take advantage of the technology to have a safer work site, to have a more manageable job site, to get through their work. And like I said, everybody's looking to go home at the end of the night and enjoy their lives outside of work. So, my job is to drive our company Enerpac to produce the highest quality tools that we can, so that all the focus is on going to get the job done and then going home.
No, and I can actually attest to what you said. I worked at the Quad Cities nuclear station for several years, and we had your tools there, and we know, just exactly what you said. You need to get the job done, because an hour wasted is big money that you can't afford, to have extend your outage because you couldn't get something tightened the way it needed to be tightened. So very important.
Yep. And we can apply that to every industry out there, whether it's wind or oil and gas or power, or, any of them out there have that same clocks running type mentality. And it's not just clocks running from a negative pressure. It's a positive point of, we can get through this job and we can get on and get ready for the next. So
that's right. All right, so we got a question here. Beyond what you've already mentioned, what would you personally like to see as the next evolution in tool technology? Are there anything, or have you heard of anything that's being developed that might really change the tools that are coming out in the future?
Yeah, so what I would call it, and forgive me for, it's a little bit of a buzz phrase, but smart management. So from what I see, we have extremely talented operators that are out in the field in a number of circumstances that have been working for decades in the industry. They know their tools. They know the work that needs to get performed. So I'd like to develop tools that give those operators their best shot at utilizing all of that knowledge and all of that information. So, to put something a little more tangible to it. So they have an interface, they have a dashboard. The dashboard pulls up on their pendant control screen, or even their iPhone or an iPad, or a tablet, to be non-specific. That gives that operator who has seen this job 1,000 times in their lifetime. They've been in the industry for 10, 20, 30 years, and they can look at this dashboard of information. They can look at the pump pressure. They can look at the lifting force. They can look at the torque and angle of turn. They can look at the ultrasonic measurements, the elongation measurements, whatever the metric that we're trying that's a critical measurement. We have that readily available for that operator to see. It's accurate. They can trust it. And they can probably train an adjacent operator how important those things are. So where it took the operator I was just describing, again, using bolting as the background, maybe they were around 30 years ago using a slugging wrench and a sledgehammer, and they understood that you were counting the number of face turns on a nut, and then introduce the hydraulic wrench, which does it with hydraulic force. And then, then we can add in some data management that can actually digitally read how much that nut is advancing. So it's all about getting the data, the critical data that's happening in a job, and every job out there has the critical data, getting that into the operator's hands that can look at the operator that might be 20 or 30 years to the junior of the other operator. They can say, hey, it took me 10, 15 years on the job to learn this. You've got 2 years to learn this, or a year to become proficient and an expert at it. Here's a dashboard, and here's what all these numbers mean. I think that's where I'd like to drive tool technology. I do it inside of Enerpac all day, every day, saying, what is that operator's experience? What's the next operator that's going to touch that tool a week from now, a day from now, a month from now? How do we make their lives easier? How do we make their lives safer? So, driving the information is the side that I'm pretty passionate about.
Yeah. I know you've talked a lot about working with customers to develop solutions for their needs. Should people contact you if they have a particular application that they're struggling with and can't figure out how best to get a piece of equipment tightened the way it needs to be tightened, would they be contacting you personally, or how should they go about finding
Sure.
an answer?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. So Enerpac as a global company, we work through channel partners and distribution. So if you have an existing Enerpac product, your first phone call should be to the distributor that you purchased that tool from, and they should have tech services through that distributorship. So get a hold of that distributor first and have a conversation with them about what's going on with your tool needs, and even just straight out curiosity or looking to schedule a tool demo. Get a hold of that Enerpac distributor. And that'll start the ball rolling. They will get a hold of me, or they'll get a hold of another territory manager inside of Enerpac to get the support rolling. With that said, if you have a competitor's tool, you would have the option to go to an Enerpac distributor, or you can contact me directly if you're looking to get some advice on hydraulics or industrial tools. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to connect you with one of our Enerpac distributors, or if it's simply a straightforward technical question, I'll get that answered sometimes on the fly. Sometimes I got to pull in some experts and make sure that we get you information that you need. But again, the short answer is, if you already have Enerpac product, get a hold of the Enerpac distributor that you work with, that you would have purchased that tool from. All of the distributors are listed on enerpac.com. If it's competitor product, feel free to also look up that Enerpac distributor, but also feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll help navigate your question internally so that we can get you some tool support, some site support.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, but I'll give you one last opportunity. Is there any last words you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, I'd just say thank you all very much for taking a little bit of time. We're at about the 50-minute mark, so I know we all have a lot of stuff going on, but we're in this great virtual world, and events like this power event and a number of other webinars, they're such a great way to share information. A lot of effort goes into putting these slides together from a huge team of people, way beyond just myself. I happen to be the messenger in this case. But as you see webinars come up from Power or from any of the other folks that are out there doing advertisements and webinars, I highly encourage you and your team members to dial in for it. Sometimes it's 20, 30 minutes or an hour of your time, but it's usually high quality information, and you will learn something with every single time. And I know from an Enerpac side, and I'm sure other partners that are out there, we're always going to try to drive as much value into these webinars as we can. So I really appreciate your participation and your ears for a bit of time. Feel free to get a hold of me directly if you have any tool questions or Enerpac questions or Hydrotite questions or Sweeney questions or any of our other sub brands. And yeah, thank you very much for joining. Hope everybody's had a good week and a good, safe weekend ahead.
All right. And I want to once again thank Enerpac for underwriting today's event, and thank everyone for attending. We hope you found the information useful and that you can have an ability to put it to work in your plant or in your facility. So with that, I wish you all a happy rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.
You bet.